Recording in progress.
Welcome, everybody. The time is now 3:30, and I hereby call the May 21st, 2024 meeting of the St. Joseph County Area Planning Commission to order. This meeting is being held in person and virtually on the fourth floor, council chambers of the county city building. We will first ask for any public,
Sorry about that, I didn't have them on.
sorry about that. We will first ask for any public comment for those in the chambers, and then from members in the public attending remotely. For those for public comment, for those attending remotely, please use the raise hand function in the message or in the host in the chat. Please clearly state your name and address for the record. We ask that board members state your name when they are making a motion and a second. At this time, please silence your cell phones so they do not disturb the meeting. May we have the roll call, please, Shelley?
Mr. Devon,
Here?
Mr. Krasinski,
Present.
Ms. Hannon,
Here.
Mr. England,
Here.
Mr. Roush, Mr. Matzett,
Here.
Dr. Thacker,
Here.
Mr. Tavernier,
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you, Shelley. We are a 9-member commission. We have 7 members present in person and 0 members attending virtually. If any petitioner would prefer to have their petition heard with more members present, they may ask staff to have their item tabled to a future meeting when more members might be present. With that, can we go ahead and start with the comprehensive plan on number I for, number A, I'm sorry.
A resolution, the Area Plan Commission of St. Joseph County, Indiana, providing the comprehensive plan for the town of New Carlisle. APC application number R264-24. The full text of the proposed plan is available for review by the public at the New Carlisle Town Hall located at 124 East Michigan Street, New Carlisle, Indiana, 46552, as well as the Olive Township Public Library located at 408 Bray Street, New Carlisle, 46552.
Shelley, could you click on your PowerPoint, please? Good afternoon. This is Carl Brown Grimm, Area Plan Commission staff. As you know, MACOG has been working with the town of New Carlisle on finishing their comprehensive plan. Today, they are looking for you to forward a recommendation to the town council for formal adoption. Staff finds that the plan meets the requirements of the state code under the IC 36-74500 series, and we do recommend a favorable recommendation to the town council of New Carlisle. Donnie with MACOG is here today to make a short presentation summarizing the contents of the plan, and I will turn it over to him now.
Hello, everyone. I'll try to be brief in the presentation, but as Carl mentioned, Olivia Nix and myself, Donnie Ritzma, have had the distinct pleasure of working with the town of New Carlisle. Marcy Kaufman and Dan Caruso from the town on the steering committee is also present here. So if there's any specific questions you want to represent for the town, Marcy would be able to answer those. We had done a 10-month planning process with the town, organized a steering committee to help guide that process. And through it, we came up collectively with a vision statement that simply says a nice place to visit, a great place to live. Historic New Carlisle is a thriving community rooted in rural values with a forward vision towards intentional growth. These are founded on 4 pillars that says a great place to live, education, strong community, sustainable growth. In the actual plan narrative, these are more outlined on exactly what these values represent. But a great place to live simply looks at the quality life, the aspects, the feel, and the function of the community. Education also includes partnerships, but also working with New Prairie School Corporation, the public library. A strong community, it talks about the functions of the town and the services that they provide to its residents and other constituents. And sustainable growth is what it is, trying to guide future opportunities as housing and employment development occurs. So integral to this process was community engagement, and we had done a number of activities, starting with we had held a stakeholder workshop last September. We had good representation, a broad representation throughout the town. Local businesses, for example, were participant. Economic Development, St. Joseph County was also there. Town representatives, town staff, among many others. So at this workshop, we were fleshed out what our goals and strategies ought to be and what we want to accomplish, as well as a first iteration of a future character map that you'll see here in a little bit. From then, we had opened it up to the community at large and offered an online and a paper version of an input survey, as well as open houses. This had started right after Thanksgiving and through the first of the year. The input survey, we had received 125 responses from residents. At the open houses, we had 2 sessions on December 12th, a morning and an evening session, and collectively, we saw 52 participants engaged. The other item that's not on the screen that we wrapped up last month was a 30-day public comment period as we were wrapping up the final version of the plan narrative. So that was another opportunity that we allowed the community to provide their input, review the draft plan. Stakeholders as well also had an opportunity to share their input. So all the input that we received ultimately came together as our top 3 priorities to help guide the town moving forward in the next 2 to 3 years. There's a number of other strategies that are provided in a full list in the appendix, Appendix A in particular. But these 3 goals will help start seeing transformative changes in the community and help guide future opportunities. Underneath each of these 3 goals is also a number of strategies, and for the sake of not to overwhelm the slides, you'll see that in Chapter 4, called the Priority Action Program, in the actual draft narrative, what those specific strategies are. And again, a complete list is in Appendix A. But the first goal focuses on redeveloping pedestrian-friendly, multifunctional downtown. The second goal, it provides enhanced opportunities for parks and recreational and open space amenities. And then thirdly is community facilities. So looking at, as the town grows, the services that need to continue to provide for its current and future residents, as well as any businesses who wants to locate in the community. So as I mentioned, the future character area map, through all the public engagement efforts, be it through the workshop, the survey, and then during the 30-day comment period, we have collectively reviewed this with the steering committee and also came up with this final version. This final character area map is not technically land use, but it also looks at from a more broader character perspective and how the town visualizes what their community should look like. You'll notice the town limits, that's their jurisdictional planning area, but there are character areas shown outside that, and that's simply just to help provide a vision to guide future opportunities and also to help Area Plan Commission, you all, and when you're reviewing proposals submitted to the county, also take in consideration the town of New Carlisle's vision and see how we can work together collaboratively. But this character map focuses on how the town plans to address where housing should locate, employment, as well as parks and recreation that I mentioned in the 3 priorities. Supporting the future character areas, the next 2 slides are 2 maps. First here is future transportation connections, and then the next one that you'll see will be bicycle and pedestrian connections. So these 2 maps support those character areas and making sure that traffic is able to easily move through the community, and bicyclists and pedestrians are also able to navigate through the community, and there's many recreational opportunities for those living and wanting to visit within New Carlisle. The transportation map, what it serves is the state's requirement asks that we put together a thoroughfare plan. So this would suffice showing the road functional classifications as well as any future functional classifications that's shown there in the dotted lines. And then the last map, as I mentioned, the bicycle and pedestrian map, it shows where we'd like to see future trails or bicycle and pedestrian connections, what that may look like. So I thank you all for your time, and we are asking for your all's for a favorable recommendation. I'd be happy to take any questions, and I would also ask Marcy if you want to add anything. I also just realized I did not state my name or address, and address is 227 West Jefferson Boulevard here at the 11th floor of the County City Building.
Thank you, Donnie. Any questions? Seeing none, I will now open this to the public. If there anybody is present wishing to speak in favor of this, I guess, is a petition, not really a petition, it's a comprehensive plan update,
It's a resolution.
resolution, yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marcy Kaufman, 106 Bray Street, New Carlisle, Indiana, 46552. I'm here today in the capacity of President of the New Carlisle Town Council and to support the approval of our comprehensive plan for the town of New Carlisle. We've worked very hard on this over the years, and we feel like we have a quality product that we are excited about and that's going to serve us as a beneficial blueprint as we move forward. First, I'd like to thank MACOG, Donnie Ritzma, Olivia Nix for all their planning, direction, and guidance throughout this process, and for putting up with me as kind of nitpicky sometimes. But, and I'd like to thank all the members of our steering committee who have steadfastly stayed with us and attended meetings and things. So they've been very faithful in sticking with this. So that's really all I have to say. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer any.
Thank you, Marcy.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this resolution? Seeing none, is anybody, do we have anybody online? Is there anybody online wishing to speak in favor of this resolution? Please use the raise hand feature. Seeing none, anybody present wishing to speak against this resolution, please come forward. Again, seeing none. Anybody online wishing to speak against this resolution, please use the raise hand feature. Again, seeing none, I will now close this to the public. Is there any last comments or questions?
Nope, it's DJ Tavernier. I make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the New Carlisle Town Council for APC R264-24.
Just for clarification, are we actually adopting this, or are we passing it to the New Carlisle?
You would be adopting this resolution that says that you approve of the plan.
So we are adopting this resolution.
Okay. So I'll retract that. And I will make a motion that we adopt this resolution, APC R264-24.
Molly Hannon, I second that.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution for APC R264-24. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. England?
Yes.
Mr. Mattson?
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski?
Yes.
Dr. Thacker?
Yes.
Ms. Hannon?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Devon?
Yes. That is 7 votes, motion carries. Thank you. And
Rezonings, BI, a combination public hearing on a proposed ordinance of Guadalupe J. and Rosa M. Aruvalo to zone from C Commercial District Final Site Plan Specific and R Single Family District to R Single Family District, and seeking the following variance. From section 154.070 sub C 2A1 to allow a total attached accessory building area of 3,900 square feet, where a maximum of 1,552 square feet is permitted for an existing single-family home. Property located at 24400 Fillmore Road, St. Joseph County, APC application number 3039-24.
Good afternoon, Faryal Sharif Area Plan Commission staff. This rezoning is for a split zone property off Fillmore Road. The front portion of the property is Zone C commercial, subject to a final site plan. That zoning and site plan have been in place since 1981. It was rezoned at that time for a tree nursery business. However, that site plan was never fully implemented. The property has pretty much just been used as a single-family home since, but the zoning on that front has remained commercial with the final site plan. The single-family home is non-conforming. We are here today to get the entire property rezoned to our single-family and bring it into conformance. There is one variance to here as well for square footage of attached accessory structures. The surrounding area is residential. The parcel is about 10 acres. Surrounding parcels are also quite large. Nearby parcels do have accessory agricultural use and also some religious facilities like churches, both of which are permitted in this district. The rear portion of the property is mostly vacant beyond the presence of some accessory structures. There are 2 drives going onto the property. The westernmost one goes farther back into the area that is already Zone R. Here is the site currently. This is a picture standing from the westernmost drive. This space with the garage door is mostly used for storage space, while the red back kind of barn structure is also used as a garage space. This is where the drive goes into the back. Here's directly across the street. This is looking west. US 31 bypass goes overhead at this section of Fillmore Road. To the west abutting the property is an INDOT buffer strip. Around the 1960s, portions of this property and other nearby properties were deeded to the state of Indiana for the highway. Despite this, the surrounding area has remained largely low-density residential on 5+ acre parcels, most of which haven't really been subdivided. Here's looking the other way. You can see a church just down the road. The petitioner did provide this site plan so you can see a layout of the home. They are not proposing any changes to the house or to the site. This is just for a correction of the zoning. This is a final site plan from that 1981 rezoning. I did just realize that I neglected to put this in your packet, so I apologize for that. As stated, this final site plan is still in effect, but a lot of the improvements noted on here were never implemented. For example, the paved parking was never put in, nor was a fence that is noted on here, or the majority of the landscaping. They did end up extending the existing building, which is now the single-family home. There have been attempts since it was first rezoned with this site plan to remove the final site plan, but not to zone it down to our single-family like they're asking for today. Those other rezoning attempts were not successful, so historically, the property has continued use for a single-family home. Going on to state law criteria for the rezoning would advance Goal 3, Objective A of the 2002 Comprehensive Plan, which is to promote the development and/or maintenance of community and neighborhood character. The future land use map does not contemplate any specific uses here. As stated, the surrounding area is low-density residential, with some permitted non-residential uses like churches and accessory agriculture. The most desirable use are those uses permitted in the R single-family district in line with the area. The rezoning would also conserve property values because by removing the C commercial zoning from this property, we're preventing the property from being developed into anything more intense. As for responsible growth and development, it's responsible to bring non-conforming properties into conformance with the zoning ordinance, as well as ensure single-family residential use continues to occur in a residential area. Thus, staff recommends this be sent to the County Council with a favorable recommendation. As mentioned, we do have one variance for detached accessory structures. So our ordinance does regulate the square footage of attached accessory structures on residential properties. So basically areas attached to the home that are not technically living space. Our standard is that property owners are allowed a maximum square footage less than or equal to the main floor of the primary building. So looking back at the site plan, we're calculating that main floor area to be the house and the laundry room area, which is approximately 1,552 square feet, and the accessory attached area are the garage and the storage areas. We are recommending approval of the variance. Looking back at state law criteria, the approval will not be injurious to the health, safety, or general welfare. The property will continue as a residential use as a result of the rezoning. Those attached areas were constructed prior to the current property owners and are unlikely to be converted to non-residential uses. That's because they were constructed around the time that Tree Nursery was attempting to convert the property into commercial use, but they were never fully converted for that purpose, nor have they since been actively used for any commercial purpose. The use and value of the area adjacent is unlikely to be affected in an adverse manner. As you may have seen from the pictures, the majority of the square footage counted toward accessory structures is just that garage, which is actually to the rear and not visible from the road or by neighbors. Nearby properties also have similar accessory structures, both attached and detached. Finally, staff finds a strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties. The variance is actually triggered by the rezoning, which is necessary to bring the property into compliance and preserve the residential use of the property for the future. So staff is recommending approval of the variance as requested and is also recommending this rezoning be sent to the county council with a favorable recommendation. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Fario. Anybody have any questions at this time? Okay. Do we have the petitioner present on Zoom?
Hi,
Go ahead.
yes, I am present.
Go ahead.
This is, hi, I am Jennifer Arevalo. I originally filled out the application on behalf of my parents, Rosa Arevalo and Guadalupe Arevalo, at 24400 Fillmore Road.
Is there anything you'd like to add to what the petition was?
No, not currently. I think Farial did a very good job at summing it up, and thank you. So, yes, that is all.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and open this to the public. Is there any present wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Please come forward and state your name and address. Saying none. Anybody online? Don't see anybody else online. Anybody present wishes to speak against this petition? Please come forward and state your name and address. Seeing none. And I will now close this to the public. So, does anybody have any questions or comments or discussion? If not, do we have a motion? I think anytime you can downgrade back to, and bring it back to conforming is always a benefit and positive. We do have a variance we have to approve and a rezoning to vote on. So we'll need two separate motions.
All right, it's DJ Tavernier. I make a motion that we approve the variance for APC 3039-24.
Jerry Thacker, second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance as presented for APC 3039-24. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. England?
Yes.
Mr. Matsett?
Yes.
Ms. Hannon?
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Dr. Thacker?
Yes.
Mr. Devon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Variance passes. Now do we have a motion for the rezoning?
DJ Tavernier, I'll make a motion that we send the APC 3039-24 with a favorable recommendation to the county council.
Jerry Thacker, second.
We have a motion and a second to send APC 3039-24 to the St. Joseph County Council with a favorable recommendation. May we have a vote, please?
Mr. Krasinski?
Yes.
Ms. Hannon?
Yes.
Mr. Matsett?
Yes.
Mr. England?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Dr. Thacker?
Yes.
Mr. Devon?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. May we have the reading for item number 2, please?
A combined public hearing on a proposed ordinance of Illinois Indiana Development Company LLC and Chicago South Shore and South Bend Railroad to zone from A agricultural district to I industrial district, and seeking a special use to allow rail yard switching and classification yard per section 154.319. Property located at 3500 US Highway, unaddressed 40 plus or minus acre parcel abutting 3500 US 20 Highway to the south and east, unaddressed 11 plus or minus acre parcel abutting said 40 plus or minus acre parcel to the west, unaddressed 35 plus or minus acre parcel abutting said 40 plus or minus acre parcel to the east, unaddressed 2 plus or minus acre parcel abutting said 35 plus or minus acre parcel to the east. 54231 Smilax Road and 3100 US 20 Highway, St. Joseph County, APC application number 3040-24.
This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So this is a combined public hearing. You'll be making two recommendations to the County Council. First, there is a rezoning from A agricultural district to I industrial. This covers the four parcels that are kind of highlighted in bluish purple on the screen. And then additionally, there is a special use to allow a rail switching and classification yard, and this will be for the entire project area, which is outlined in yellow. Those other three parcels to the east of the agriculturally zoned property are already zoned I industrial. So again, these are the parcels involved in the rezoning. And then this shows the entirety of the project where some of the parcels that are subject to the special use are already zoned I industrial. The special use of the railroad switching and classification yard would essentially allow for a freight rail terminal to be established on this property wherein trains could be loaded and unloaded. They would have access to the Chicago South Shore and South Bend Railway, which runs abutting to the south. It has approximately 1,700 feet of frontage on that rail line, which does have a freight service. So this could be a terminal that would allow goods and materials to be shipped in and out for the benefit of the industrial and agricultural users in this area. When you look currently on site, it's mostly cultivated acreage with a wooded area. To the north of the agriculturally zoned parcel, there appears to be one single-family home with frontage on US 20. And then as you look further to the north across US 20, there are farm parcels which are zoned A agricultural district. Immediately to the north of the industrial zoned portion of the site, there's a contractor yard, a 3D printing shop, and a cell tower and compound, all zoned I industrial district. To the east of the site across Smilax Road, there's a single-family home, as well as a cultivated farm field that also contains a single-family home. These are zoned A agricultural district, with the exception of a small portion that is zoned C commercial, but does not actually contain any structures or commercial development. Then to the south of these properties are existing industrial uses, which are zoned I industrial. To the south of the agriculturally zoned portions is the railroad right-of-way, followed by Cleveland Cliffs, which is zoned GI general industrial within the town of New Carlisle. To the south of the industrially zoned properties is Unifrax, which is zoned I industrial district in the county, followed again by the railroad right-of-way, and then an AEP substation and farm field zoned A agricultural district. If you look to the west, there are sites with single-family homes with frontage on US 20, and then further south to the rear of these smaller parcels, there are agriculturally zoned parcels, which are currently cultivated farm fields. As you can see, the site is within the IEC core development area and is subject to the IEC overlay. This is the site as it looks currently, looking south onto the site. And then this is the site as viewed from Smilax, looking to the west. And then along US 20, looking west, looking to the east. The site plan submitted would show proposed access to the site via US 20 and Smilax. Drives would then provide access to the southern portion of the property where it appears that rail cars could then be loaded via trucks. The petitioner is proposing to provide type 2 landscaping along the frontage of US 20, as well as to the two abutting residential uses and all abutting agriculturally zoned land. This type 2 is what we consider to be full landscape screening, so this would be 30 evergreens per every 40 feet of lot line in a double staggered row, or something that provides that equivalent level of screening. And then along the Smilax frontage, they're proposing one shade tree plus one ornamental tree per every 40 feet of that lot line. So this proposed landscaping is well in excess of what would be required both by the I Industrial District or within the IEC Industrial overlay. And it should provide excellent screening from US 20 as well as adjacent agricultural and residential uses in the area. In terms of land use history and trends, abutting industrial property to the east, Unifrax, that was rezoned from R single family to M manufacturing district in 1976. The industrial zone properties to the east of Smilax were originally rezoned from A agricultural to M manufacturing between 1996 and 2006. And the Cleveland Cliffs property was rezoned from agricultural to industrial beginning in the 1980s. Per the petitioner's application, one drive access is proposed onto US 20 and one onto Smilax, as I mentioned. The US 20 access would be subject to NDOT approval. The Smilax entrance would be subject to county engineer approval. Once developed, the site would be, served by municipal sewer provided by the city of South Bend and municipal water from the town of New Carlisle. The county engineer states that the drive access on the Smilax Road is subject to county engineer approval and that the development must comply with county drainage standards. They also state that a traffic study will be needed to confirm the needed improvements for this proposed development. If the rezoning is successful, the property will immediately become subject to the use restrictions and heightened landscape standards that have been adopted as part of the IEC overlay district. This site plan kind of just better highlights where the different types of landscaping are being placed. You'll see type 2 along all the abutting parcel lines as well as along US 20, and then along Smilax, they're doing the shade and ornamental trees. Turning to the state law criteria, this rezoning would advance several goals of the 2002 comprehensive plan, including goal 2 objective A, which is to ensure that suitable areas are available for future industrial development. More specifically, policy 6, which states that industrial uses shall have access to municipal water, wastewater, and sanitation services, as well as goal 2 objective B, which states that employment uses should be located in a manner such that conflicts with residential land use are minimized. Specifically, policy 3, which states that truck and automobile traffic generated by employment uses should not travel through residential areas. Per the 2002 future land use map, this site falls within an industrial growth area, and it is within the IEC core development area, which was recognized by joint resolutions of the St. Joseph County Board of Commissioners, Olive Township, and the town of New Carlisle. And it was also recognized as a site for future industrial development within the IEC area management plan. Turning to current conditions and character, This current site, which appears to have been acquired by the petitioner between 2011 and 2012, primarily serves as a cultivated farm field. There is a portion of the property that's wooded, and as I mentioned, it has over 1,700 feet of rail frontage on the property owner's rail line. Turning to most desirable use, we find that in light of available utilities, highway and railroad connections, as well as planned industrial development throughout the Indiana Enterprise Center, industrial uses are the most desirable uses for this property. In terms of conservation of property values, the impact on the value of residential properties should be well mitigated by the landscape screening that the petitioner is providing, as well as the elevated setbacks required by the I district between industrial and residential uses. It's not anticipated that this use should have any adverse impact on neighboring agricultural land. Finally, turning to responsible development and growth, staff finds that it is responsible to allow additional industrial uses within a planned industrial development wherein utility extensions are underway to support those uses. As a result, staff recommends that the rezoning be sent to the county council with a favorable recommendation. Once again, this is a combined public hearing. So as we look at the special use, there are state law criteria related to when a special use should be granted. And again, this applies to all 7 of the parcels shown in the site plan. We find that the proposed use will not be injurious to public health, safety, comfort, community moral standards, convenience, or general welfare. The nature of the proposed use in question really kind of suggests that probably a bulk of the outdoor operations will be closer to the southern end of the property near the rail line as opposed to along the US 20 frontage and the single-family homes that are along US 20. So that should help lessen that impact on the public. Additionally, if the truck traffic generated by this new use warrants new street improvements to protect public safety, these improvements would need to be completed prior to the beginning of operations, and a traffic impact study would inform where this need was. Turning to the second criteria, we find that the proposed use would not injure or adversely affect the use of the adjacent area or property values therein. As shown, the proposed landscape screening on the site plan would protect the residential uses in the area from the visual impacts of this use, therefore protecting the use and value. As such, staff is recommending that the special use be subject to a written commitment, which would obligate the developer to install the landscaping as shown on the site plan submitted. Additionally, the use would need to comply with all the performance standards of the zoning ordinance related to noise, vibration, smoke, dust, particulate matter, and glare, and as well as waste. Third, we find that the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district in which it is located. The I Industrial District was designed to allow for uses which often require extensive outdoor storage and operations. Additionally, the proposed landscape screening in excess of what the zoning ordinance and IEC overlay district currently require would be consistent with the goals of the IEC overlay district to ensure that industrial development is aesthetically appealing to the public and neighboring residents. Additionally, the use is fully consistent with the vision and guiding principles of the IEC area management plan, which frequently cites rail access as one of the foundational key locational and economic strengths of this core development area, and specifically calls out this as a portion of Concept Area A, which has excellent potential to provide freight rail service to industrial and logistic users within the IEC. Finally, we find that the proposed use is compatible with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, as that future land use map did highlight this area for industrial growth. Therefore, staff recommends that the special use be sent to the county council with a favorable recommendation, but we do want to make that our recommendation subject to 3 written commitments. One being the approval of the rezoning from A agricultural district to I industrial district for those 4 parcels that are not yet zoned I industrial. The second being a written commitment requiring a traffic study per county engineer or NDOT requirements. And the third being that written commitment obligating the developer to provide the landscaping shown on the site plan submitted with this rezoning petition. Beyond that, I am happy to answer any questions on the rezoning and the special use request.
Thank you, Sean. Anybody have any questions at this time?
Yeah, Sean, do we know approximately how many trucks will be coming in and out of there a day? Is this a 24-hour operation or nighttime, you know, because South Bend Freight runs at night, I believe?
I don't know how much we really know of the proposed extent of the use. The petitioner could speak to that better than I can, though.
Is the petitioner here? Okay, then I'll just wait.
Anybody else have any questions at this time? Seeing none, do we have the petitioner?
Thank you. My name is George Lepiniotis with the law firm of Krieg DeVault, 4101 Edison Lakes Parkway. On behalf of the petitioner, South Shore Railroad, South Shore Freight, I have some packets for you if you would like to pass them out. Many of you know the South Shore Line, and we're familiar with the South Shore Commuter Line. The South Shore Rail lines are also used for freight service. That freight service is called South Shore Freight, quite conveniently. You can see one of their engines here. It serves the north side of the tracks near US 20 where we are talking about. You've heard that we're here to rezone 4 parcels. South Shore Freight and its parent have owned these parcels for a number of years and been waiting for the right circumstances in which to be able to market these parcels for use as a rail depot and potentially a connection to the South Shore Freight line. In direct answer to your question on what the use is, there is no use currently. The intent is to market the parcel to potential users who would use the connectivity to the rail line.
I knew it wasn't in use right now.
No, I mean, there is no, you asked how many trucks might be generated, et cetera. That would come before this body as each new user came to you for their connections to your roads and for their connections to US 20. And so that traffic study that Sean talked about is still to come as the users are identified. But before users can be identified for a parcel like this, it has to be zoned correctly, and there has to be a promise that it can make that connection to the rail lines. That is, in fact, South Shore Freight's primary business, and that is the primary function of this site, is to offset vehicular road traffic and to allow that rail traffic. As you can see here, there's some statistics from their website. They've been operating South Shore Freight for more than 100 years, and they've owned this site for a number of years and simply been waiting for public utilities, water, sewer, et cetera, that would make its development into a rail line appropriate. You can see here the freight map. And I provide this to you as a way of showing how some goods and materials could flow both in and out of the town of New Carlisle in that area without needing trucks to do all of the work. Yes, trucks will still be a part of a rail depot, but they are only one part of the equation, not both sides of the equation. In other words, they are taking material out, but they're not necessarily bringing material in. That's the responsibility of the train cars, and that's the beauty of sustainable growth and using the existing infrastructure of the South Shore lines to help offset some of that material that may come into the west side for development. Materials such as aggregate, construction material, et cetera. And you can see here as you connect in and around the area that obviously the bulk of the connections are made out west. That is where you can see many more lines connecting to the South Shore Freight line, and that is, in fact, one of the benefits of the site, is that it can take goods and materials west of the site without requiring truck traffic. Here you can see a very broad overview of where the site sits. Sean did a great job of presenting to you as we zoom into the site, you can see it's one defining factor that makes it extremely appropriate for this, and that is that it borders the rail lines. Rail lines are difficult to build, especially in 24, sorry. They are, in fact, it is that proximity that makes this land so conducive to this use. You see the Unifrac site to the east also has a rail connection, as do other sites in and around the area. Those rail connections are important to these sites, so that is the reason the petition is being made. You have talked about, and Sean did a great job, so I'm not going to bore you and repeat the elements or the factors that you would consider. I think those are fairly clear when it comes to this site. As far as its responsibility, my client is committed to observing the 3 conditions that Sean talked about, including that heavy landscape screening anywhere it might abut residential parcels and neighbors to ensure that they are minimizing their impact on the neighbors. They do this all over the line and are comfortable operating the line in as minimally invasive manner as possible. Back to the site plan, it is a unique parcel. 3 of the 7 parcels are already zoned industrial, as are many parcels that are neighboring it. We're simply asking that the 4 additional parcels that have been held in the queue be zoned industrial so that they may be marketed. And then per the IEC overlay, it must be a special use to have a rail connection. There is no by right. So there's really only one way for my client to connect to rail and to make rail an alternative to the transportation needs of that development for that sustainable and responsible development, and that is to allow this site to become industrial and to have the special use. There are no other alternatives. Other than that, I'm open for questions if you have any. And my client has joined me today, as well as a representative, Abmarsh, who created the site plan.
Thank you, George. Any questions for the petitioner at this time?
I got a couple.
Sure.
Some you can't answer because you don't have
A user.
client, right?
Right.
Is this going to, are you going to try to create multiple stub tracks in this area for, are you wanting 1 client or are you wanting 2 or 3?
There could potentially be 2 or 3. This is a 120-acre parcel. The IEC requires a 40-acre parcel for a rail connection minimum. And so as this develops, it could be that there's internal infrastructure to allow for multiple users on one site. But again, that would also be part of the traffic study and would not just be done in a vacuum. So that is something that would need to be approved by the county and the state.
Okay. I mean, without a client, a lot of my questions that I have aren't valid.
And let me be clear, it's very hard to market, for South Shore to market a parcel to potential users without it being zoned correctly. And the way the IEC is written for that rail depot, unless this approval process happens, it can't be marketed as a rail depot because it is not a rail depot. And so that is the reason that they're coming to you preemptively, so that they can in fact expend the resources and do the things they need to do to market to users. I will also tell you that any user in there would have to conform to your IEC industrial requirements. So it can't just be any industrial user. It would have to conform to the users that the industrial zoning in the IEC specifically allows. And I say that because the IEC overlay district has some specific exclusions for certain industrial activity.
So is this a potential site where the engines would sit for multiple days for
No.
switching hours?
No, this is, and I believe that's correct.
It is not a switching yard, no.
No.
It would be a drop-off.
So a lot of my, back in the day, when I first graduated college, I worked as a conductor for Norfolk Southern. And, no, I did not wear the funny hat.
Did you have a whistle?
I did not have a whistle. Darn it. So I understand railroad, and I understand switching, and a lot of my questions pertain to when you have a user.
Sure.
I got nothing right now.
And again, as I said, before a traffic study can be done, the users would need to be identified because that would be part of that process. So this is not the last time that overview or oversight will be applied to the parcel during the potential marketing, leasing, and development process.
I think you maybe just answered my question, but so these will be leased, it'll be the same owner, and then it'll be.
Could be,
leased
yes.
To users potentially.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. There's no other questions by the commission. I'll go ahead and open this to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Is anybody present who wishes to speak in favor? Please come forward and state your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Bill Shalio, Economic Development, part of the Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth with offices on the 7th and 11th floor. Here today to support both the rezoning and also the use, special use for the site. We have several prospects over the last several years that have looked at rail sites, but as the requirements for rail sites and site prospect requirements get more stringent, the property actually has to be zoned, has to be rail ready. It can't just be a potential site that could be rail served. So there have been some opportunities that we've lost on the ability to bid on because we didn't have rail sites ready to go. This is something that we've looked at with South Shore for, almost 10 years, and so we're excited to see it move to this next level and just ask for your support. And to answer your question, Bobby, I got stopped by a train today. They were moving stuff into 5-star sheet, and so I had to go from Tulip to Sage to get around the track. So they do run during the day too, so thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
I get stopped at Quince all the time.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition, please come forward and state your name and address. Seeing none, is there anybody present wishing to speak against this petition? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Good afternoon, Steve Francis, Judy Lake Drive, Clay Township. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Steve, full address, just for the record.
Judy Lake Drive.
Okay.
Yep. So I think the questions were appropriate because I really, I'll just say this. I'll speak up for agricultural land because we've been doing that for years, and this is further loss of ag land. But it is within the IEC. I do have concerns about it being up near 20. And the use. I think that you haven't been provided with what the use would be at this point in time, so to approve or recommend a special use when you don't really know what the use will be is premature. Maybe the rezoning can be done first, but the special use, I think you should have more information. I'm particularly concerned about a multimodal or intermodal site that may be developed in the future where trucks come in, the containers are offloaded onto the trains and vice versa, and that can be a very intensive, noisy, dirty, and disruptive operation. If this is just bringing in product to provide for the industrial activity in the IEC, that might be more acceptable. But I think I'm surprised there aren't more people here who are around the area. You just heard about the comprehensive plan of maintaining New Carlisle as an historic, rural, and pleasant place to live. Yet this is right on the road entering the town. It's the first thing that people are going to see. Appreciate the extra screening and so on, but I don't think you have enough information for the special use. And I'm very concerned that down the road, if there is an interchange closer by, that this could turn into something that's more significant. I do appreciate the traffic impact study. I go out there often. I don't really want to, I would like to see it not be developed on the northern side along State Road 20, but you'd be subject to the new owner voluntarily agreeing not to do that. I don't know if you can write a restriction into that extent, that you keep some of that Highway 20 entranceway open to that historic, agricultural, rural character that was and may never be the hallmark of New Carlisle. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Good afternoon, Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. I always thought Mr. Shalio's idea of putting rail spurs down in the IEC was brilliant. I thought that was something that should have been done a long time ago. There should be spurs down into the IEC. When I think of that, I think of, say, like from the tracks south, or from the businesses, all within the IEC, to move product around, to move finished product, to move raw material, to avoid the trucks. I just think there's not enough information with this right now. As someone who, a little over 5 years ago, made the trip up to the intermodal in Elwood, Illinois, and if you read the article from Ted Booker from the Tribune at that time of our trip up there, you'll see, the only thing we don't have here is a river. They were bringing stuff in on barges there, along with the stuff on the trucks. But when we were driving down anywhere near, and it was an intermodal, when the young lady who was giving us the tour of the area up there, we were the only passenger vehicle, and it was one of those big 10-passenger Tahoe things. I mean, it was a big vehicle. We were the only regular passenger vehicle in just middle of trucks as far as you could see. And I just think there needs to be some assurance that that isn't the type of thing that's going to come in, and New Carlisle won't be a great place to live or a nice place to visit. It'll be a nightmare. And particularly, I know the toll road people have said, no, not a chance. But I think if you start putting enough stuff there, they might think about bringing a ramp right down into the area off of the toll road. It's about, I guess, less than 5 miles to the north. It wouldn't take too much to connect into the area with an exit off the toll road. I just think we need a little more information on exactly what they're going to do. I agree that it's good to move stuff by rail within the area, to not bring trucks in and tear up our roads. But I thought I silenced it, sorry. I'm done anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Nothing like getting kicked off by your own phone. Charlotte Wolf, 21439 Osborne Road, Lakeville. And my comments are actually not really for this project, but I didn't see privilege of the floor, so is that okay to just give comments that are in general about this topic?
It's got to be specific to this.
Okay, well, I guess I'm really neither for nor against this, because I am thankful for increased rail traffic. I think that's a great idea for nationally. And I'm also very thankful for the overlay, which prevents the heavy industrial uses in the IEC. But the thing about the IEC is that if you look at the 2011 purchase, and I realize that these kinds of companies that support the rails do look around, they scout potential properties that might be conducive to rail use, and they buy them. And this particular purchase may or may not indicate a vision to have the IEC before it was actually approved or maybe even thought of by area residents. It was obviously being thought of by business interests in the county. The other question I have is the IEC area management plan subject to public input? Was it subject to public input? Maybe there's not a format for questions here, but I guess because the IEC area management plan does not equal a county comprehensive plan, we are all operating on all of these developments from a 2002 standpoint. And I urge the zoning board and everyone involved to look at additional proposals under the lens of having a county comprehensive plan update in place before we approve all these things. Excepting for the IEC, it's already approved. It's a done deal. New Carlisle has no right to complain because they approved having the IEC right next door. Apologies to Dan there, but, you know, it is what it is. And I think managing this to be the best that it can be is all that can be done at this point. But I think that county approval and public input should be done before these kinds of huge developments are put in place. Thank you.
Is anybody else present wishing to speak against this petition? Please come forward. Against it?
May I have a few moments of rebuttal?
Once we're done. Yep. Yep. Nobody else present? Is anybody online wishing to speak against this petition? Please use the raise hand feature. Seeing none. Now you get a chance to rebut. You have, I think, 10 minutes.
I just need a couple.
Yep.
Wanted to be clear that the special use being requested is for the rail connection only, and that it is the only way to get it. And so the industrial activity that is being requested would fall in line with the IEC in the overlay district. There is nothing before you that would ask you to use any sort of variance or special use in regards to the industrial uses that could end up on the site. The only special use is to make the rail connection, which I think makes sense for a property of this type, given its proximity to the rail. I also wanted to talk about the intermodal situation. The power lines of the South Shore do not allow for container-type train traffic that you might see on the larger railroad lines, including those just to the south, the additional lines that are to the south of the South Shore line that don't cross because they can't get past the South Shore's power lines. NICTA would have to raise every single one of those power lines to allow for an intermodal situation. There hasn't been any conversation of that. I was just warned, never say never, but there is absolutely no plan to do that type of freight traffic. This is a short rail line. This is a little different than an intermodal, and that is not the plan for the site. Also, just wanted to be clear that South Shore and my client didn't scout this property to find it. They purchased it because it happens to be right next to their own rail line. And this is how the South Shore can survive. We talk about rail, we talk about responsible development, we talk about easing the burden on our various other infrastructures. Not allowing the South Shore to build a facility like this or to market it essentially is a testament to not wanting rail service, because this is how rail service works. And with the limitations of the South Shore line, I think this is better than the best it can be. I think our proposal here is a very responsible way to connect to the rail line and ease some of the development burden. Thank you.
Thank you, George. With that, do we have any questions by the commission?
I've got one for Sean. First, Sean, one of your three commitments is whoever the client would be would have to pay for a traffic study?
Yeah, those would all run with the land once they're recorded, so any future owners would be bound by them as well.
Bill, I know you're still sitting back there, obviously. At this time, are you looking at doing anything to Smilex at the present time or in the near future on what's going on out there right now?
As far as widening it, improving it, anything like that?
Yeah.
I think part of it is we've been waiting to make some determinations whether there's a second Alcogen or Unifrax building built on the site, whether there's a roadway built out from this property out to Smilax. So we've had conversations that we widen it, put in a third lane, put in a center turn lane, things like that. Not on the books yet, but I think as part of the widening or the work we're doing right now with the Smilax Road lift station, force main project, things like that. We are moving things far enough to the outside that if we had to do a third lane, that would be part of it. We've also looked at the potential to upgrade that from asphalt to concrete at a point, but we want to get some of this other construction work done first before we put in asphalt, tear it up while we're using it.
But you're
So,
just looking in between 20 and Edison probably right now, aren't you?
yeah, yep,
Yeah, and that's where this is.
yeah, yes.
But I just, I don't want a future study to come back and say that the future client, will have to take care of the road and you'll take care of it before we get to that point.
Well, I think we'll take care of it. I think there's a lot of these pieces are gonna fill in pretty quickly, so.
I
with
would hope
that-
so, because
Yeah,
redevelopment's spending a lot of money out there now. Sure, it makes sense to spend a little bit more, I guess, on Smilax, but I don't want the current client, whenever that is, or whoever that is, to walk away from here scot-free.
right. No, they won't. That's not the way we do development agreements, so everybody's gotta have a little skin in the game, so,
And that's the way it's been in the past, most of the time.
yeah. Well, we like to
And
think
where'd
that
you
we.
get caught by that train again?
I was at, I started at Smilax, I went to Tulip, and because the gates were down at Tulip, I had to go to Sage to get around it, so.
And that was something, that was just a normal train, or was that?
Well, it was,
South-
no, that was,
South Shore
it
Freight?
was a freight train pushing
Freight?
boxes back into.
South Shore Freight, or just?
South
a
Shore Freight, no,
Yeah,
South Shore
okay.
Freight,
All right,
so.
Okay.
We call that progress. I'm willing to do that for progress, so.
Any other questions by the commission? Just for clarification to Brandy, so we want to vote on the rezonings first and then the special use?
You don't have to do them in a specific order, you just have to do them separately, I believe.
Okay.
I can make a motion.
Actually, just verifying.
I think we do them separately anyways.
Yeah, we got to do it separate anyway, so.
All right. So, this is DJ Tavernier. Normally, I'm the guy sitting up here saying that I don't feel like we have enough information, and today I feel like we do have enough information, right? So, I'll make a motion on, APC 3040-24, to send a favorable recommendation to the county council for the rezoning.
Okay.
Tom England, second.
We have a motion and a second to send APC 3040-24 to the St. Joseph County Council with a favorable recommendation on the rezoning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mattson?
Yes.
Ms. Hannon?
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski?
Yes.
Dr. Thacker?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. England?
Yes.
Mr. Devon?
Yes.
And I did double check, there's no specific order, they just have to be separate.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion here in a second, but I wanna say this. I've seen a lot of the Chicago line, in growth. New lines, new little switching yards, it all equals growth, right? And New Carlisle is blowing up right now, and I think the only way that they can continue to cut back on road traffic and issues that they might have with trucks, the only way is for rail. There's no other way to move the amount of freight that is moved in the United States other than rail. So, I'll make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the county council for the special use of APC 3040-24.
Subject to written commitments.
Subject to the staff's written subject to the written commitments outlined in the staff's report. Golly.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Robert Krasinski, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to send APC 3040-24 to the St. Joseph County Council with a favorable recommendation for the special use, subject to the written commitments outlined by the staff. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Thacker,
Yes.
Mrs. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. England,
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier,
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski,
Yes.
Mr. Devon.
Yes. 7-0, motion carries. We have a reading for item number 3, please.
A proposed ordinance of Dominic R. and Marita M. Cairo Revocable Trust to zone from R Single Family District and C Commercial District to C Commercial District, property located at 932 East McKinley Highway, St. Joseph County, APC application number 3041-24.
Shelley, would you mind switching to PowerPoint, please? I can go ahead and get started. This is Carl Brown Grimm, Area Plan Commission staff. So this proposal, this proposal is to rezone the rear half of the subject property from R residential to C commercial district. They're looking to rezone the split zone portion of the property to allow for the expansion of the current warehousing use found on the C commercial district area of the site. This property is in a unique location, being that it's surrounded on 3 sides by Mishawaka jurisdiction. There's even a small parcel owned by the petitioner adjacent to the south, providing frontage on McKinley Highway, zoned Mishawaka. However, abutting to the north are parcels under county jurisdiction zoned R residential. Here's the current use on site, again, that warehousing, commercial use. And then here's the rear, where that expansion is planned to go. That's looking north. As you can see, those residential parcels are screened by the existing woods that are planned to remain in place. Here are the surrounding parcels abutting the site along McKinley. Even though I mentioned these parcels are zoned for, within Mishawaka's jurisdiction, it does appear to be a heavily commercial portion of the corridor, again, as evidenced by these surrounding uses. Looking there to the south, here's the corridor west and east. So here's the site plan showing the planned 20,000 square foot expansion to the existing building. It also shows area for retention, as well as those existing trees that are to be preserved in the rear of the site. Looking at our criteria to consider, staff finds that this goal is directly supported by the comprehensive plan, specifically Goal 2, Objective C, which directs the county to develop quality business areas to meet the service needs of the area, and more specifically, Policy 2 of that goal, promoting the upgrading and rejuvenation of these business areas. As you have seen, the current conditions, including the subject property and all around it on McKinley Highway, are predominantly commercial in nature. Accordingly, the most desirable use would be to allow for the already commercial parcel to fully develop. Property values will be conserved given the fit with the surrounding area. Additionally, again, those trees that will remain on site will continue to buffer the existing residential to the north from on-site commercial activities. Finally, staff finds that removing the split zoning and allowing a property along an important commercial corridor to develop naturally does represent responsible development and growth. We do recommend that you forward this to the County Council with a favorable recommendation, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you would have.
Carl, before we get into questions, can you just note that we did refer the petitioner to the city of Mishawaka?
Sure. So in discussion, this first came to us through commercial plan review where they were looking to expand, again, this project. We did refer them to the city of Mishawaka, again, because of this situation here with Mishawaka abutting on 3 sides and up against there. It came down to a timing thing. I believe they are still in talks with the city of Mishawaka to be annexed into the city, but we're looking at rezoning this first so that they can get their initial approvals and then dealing with Mishawaka after.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions? Do we have a petitioner present? Yep, please come. Yeah, please come forward and state your name and address. If you want to say a few words.
I'll say a couple words.
Makes me real happy to see all these people that left, because you never want to be the last guy to zoning meeting, and you don't know anybody. Not a very good feeling. All right, my name's Jim Ullery. I'm with Mid-States Construction in Elkhart. I've been an Elkhart guy my whole life, so I understand all about trains. 51205 Maplewood Drive, Elkhart, Indiana. It's a family business. The Quarros are. Mike and Steve are the sons. Marita's still alive. Dominic has passed. And their nieces and nephews, daughters and sons, however they are, all work there. Really quiet. All they do is store and sell carpet and ceramic tile. There's not a lot of semi-traffic. There's not a lot of foot traffic. They're 100 foot off of those busy railroad tracks right by Big C on McKinley. So, I mean, there's right next door to Blue Lantern Restaurant, which is a good place to eat. But yeah, it's just a no heat, no bathrooms, cold storage. There'll be insulation in the building because the time to put it in is when you're building it, not later. No real added employees, just cold storage. I met Carl on site. We went over, we cleaned up the site. Used to be the Mishawaka dump for the public works. And some of the concrete, we found bathtubs. We found light bases for traffic lights. We found all kinds of stuff. We got most of that all hauled away. It had to go. But we're not gonna pour 1 ounce of concrete without the approval of somebody. So, any questions?
Thanks, Jim. Nope, I think so. Thank you.
The last thing I got to say is, you guys, it's an admirable job you do. It's a thankless job you do. I'm sorry I had to go last, but I did learn a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. We're going to go ahead and open up to the public. Is anybody present wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Please come forward. Seeing none. Anybody online wishing to speak in favor of this petition, please use the raise hand feature. Somebody in the waiting room. Go ahead, Mary. You want to speak in favor?
Yes, I do want to speak in favor. Mary Countryman, 52959 Timothy Road, New Carlisle. I know nothing about this project other than the fact that the gentleman said that it used to be a dump and they cleaned it up. And I applaud that. I applaud the cleaning up of a dumpy area, cleaning up of garbaged area, a ruined area, and reusing it, repurposing it for something useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else online wishing to speak in favor of this petition, please use the raise hand feature. We're still connecting. Seeing none. Anybody present wishing to speak against this petition, please come forward. Seeing none. Anybody online wishing to speak against this petition, please use the raise hand feature. Again, seeing none. I will now close this to the public. Do we have any last comments, questions by the commission?
DJ Tavernier, I make a motion that we send APC 3041-24 with a favorable recommendation to the county council.
Jerry Thacker, second.
We have a motion, a second, to send APC 3041-24 to the St. Joseph County Council with a favorable recommendation. We have a vote, please.
Mr. England?
Yes.
Mr. Matsett?
Yes.
Ms. Hannon?
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Thacker?
Yes.
Mr. Devon?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have item number 4.
A proposed ordinance amending Title 15 Land Use Chapter 154, Planning and Zoning of the St. Joseph County Code, Section 154.318, to address legally established non-conforming uses within the Indiana Enterprise Center Overlay District, APC application number 3042-24.
Can you click on the PowerPoint real quick? Oh, thank you. This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So this is a text amendment to the IEC overlay district. It would allow for legally established non-conforming uses in that district to be expanded such that such expansion cannot occupy any more than 50% of the site that was developed at the time the use became non-conforming when the overlay was adopted. In some cases, and again, there aren't really many of these uses in the overlay by all appearances. I wasn't really able to go through and necessarily determine which of the existing developments were legal non-conforming, but of those that there are, some likely became legal non-conforming even before the adoption of the overlay when we combined industrial districts such that a special use was required for a number of the uses that were permitted by right in the M manufacturing district. Now that they're in the overlay, there's really no way to sort of legalize these uses. And really since the onset of the overlay working group, we wanted to kind of account for these existing uses. I mean, we had this future vision as to what we wanted development to look like in the overlay district. But again, there was a balance to work out as to when that would apply to existing uses, not wanting to diminish their use and value and their investment potential. So I think this is a good balance to allow that slight expansion onto these sites. In looking at the developed uses within the overlay already, really when you account for required setbacks and all of that and what's already been developed, it doesn't appear as though they could really develop any more than that 50% of the existing land usage that we're proposing. Other than that, this comes to you from the staff with a favorable recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do we know how many, I mean, is there a lot of parcels like that that are legal non-conforming?
I don't believe that there are. There aren't even really all that many parcels that are previously developed. Of those that I can readily identify, it would appear that most of the uses would still be permitted in the IEC overlay district.
Have any other questions? No? And this was presented by the staff, correct?
Correct.
So there is no other presentation, so I will go ahead and open this to the public. Is there anybody present wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Please come forward, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Charlotte Wolf, 21439 Osborne Road, Lakeville. And I had no idea this was going to be on the agenda, but I'm really happy to see that staff is actually going through this stuff with a fine-tooth comb, because I do feel like without having an updated county comprehensive plan, there really is no guidance in terms of land uses and protecting resources, especially on prime farmland like this, which has got a high water table. And as I've said at previous meetings, we need to be really, really careful about how this gets developed and the uses that are allowed. Thank goodness for the overlay, and make it as strong as possible, because we have no other planning tool in place other than the 2002 plan, which is outdated. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Seeing none. Anybody online wishing to speak in favor of this petition, please use the raise hand feature. Seeing none. Anybody wishing to speak against this petition, please come forward.
Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. I'm not so much against it, but again, there's some questions that need to be answered. And as what I guess initiated this whole thing was the Ozinga Concrete locating on property and pouring concrete pads without permits, bringing a batch plant into an area where you had to get a special use, and being allowed to use that property by the owner of the property, Smith Concrete. Again, I bring up the example, I'm tired of cutting my grass. Can I just rip it out and concrete my grass without a permit, and that's okay with everybody? I think it's, I don't, you can't, like, you could. You'd say, Dan, take out the concrete and put your grass back. I guess you can't do this with Ozinga. I don't know. Or anybody else, any other operation that somebody happens to walk out through there with their dog one day and say, where'd that come from? I wonder if they got a permit to do that. And it seems like we're always accommodating, not always, there have been a few instances, but we accommodate somebody who breaks the rules. And that's what we're doing right now. We're accommodating Ozinga Concrete and Smith Concrete, who were grandfathered in there. They were there before the overlay existed. So why they thought they could give Ozinga permission to use the property is beyond me. I'm not sure how that happened. But I just think it's, the rules are there, and you talked about getting things in place for the rail yard and getting the rules set. And Miss Charlotte talked about, you want to get the overlay, get the rules down, get the comprehensive plan in place. Then we just go and apply for a variance to the plan. I mean, I don't get, I know it's the procedure, but to say that, oh, we've got it in the comprehensive plan, we've got the overlay, and it's in the overlay. The ink wasn't even dry on the one part of the overlay before GM came and said, oh, guess what? We can't do our screening to the south because we got to put a loading dock there. To me, in this instance, the rules are made to be broken. And that's what's happening. And I think there needs to be a little more work on the procedure for making these changes into special use variances, getting everybody on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good afternoon again, Steve Francis, Duday Lake Drive, Clay Township. This is what I really came to speak on. You know, because a year ago, I spoke in favor of the overlay. There were things in it I didn't like, definitely, but in the spirit of compromise, realizing that we needed a little stronger safeguards out there and protection for the people living in that area, as well as the citizens of St. Joe County, the overlay really does provide significant protections embodying in law restrictions that were placed were put in place by a council in second reading that were really kind of just a list of things. And I commend the staff for really professionalizing that and coming up with an overlay. But what this does is it weakens the overlay. It moves it from 25%, as I understand it. Staff will correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong. But from allowing 25% expansion, this ups it to 50%. It is being done in relation to a legal violation out there in which a batch plant was being set up on land that would be clearly in violation of that 25%. I'm concerned that the staff doesn't know what the non-conforming uses are so that you could be advised of what might be in store if they can expand their non-conforming use by 50%. My understanding is that Smith did not own the land south of it, and that's where I think the concrete was poured. So this was being set up on land that was previously not owned by Smith Concrete, I believe. I'm not sure of that. So what you'll be doing by this is weakening the overlay, doing so in relation to a violation I believe it was stopped. I mean, I believe that once the planning department was alerted, it was stopped. But the planning department knew this was happening. The economic development director is, I think, using Ozinga to pour concrete for some of the waterworks projects. So what you'd be doing is, to the citizens of St. Joe County, is saying, oh, it's okay if you violate the law, it will just get changed. That's wrong. Not only will it get changed for one user, it's getting changed for all the non-conforming users. And what that says to those of us who are against setting up another EIC on the east side, where there isn't any protections in place, or there wasn't when you approved it, I appreciate that you did put some restrictions in place, is that those can be changed at will if there's a reason. If somebody comes in and violates it, I mean, the planning commission is just going to go ahead and okay what the staff is saying. Now, what happens if you don't approve it? I don't know. That question needs to be asked. Why would Kurt Concrete go through so many obstacles? I think rightfully so, in finding a place where they could set up, being told they could not set up in the industrial IEC zone because it's not appropriate for a new batch plant in the industrial zone. It's appropriate in an agricultural zone. They had to go through 3 different properties and finally got the approval at the St. Joe Council, with Dan and me all in favor of that property being rezoned. Not rezoned, but that use being approved by the county council. If you approve this, you're saying to all of us who have worked on this overlay, which is only half done, by the way, the design overlay with sustainability standards is still outstanding. Still, we haven't seen it after a year. You'll be saying, that's okay, folks. Do something that is against the law. They knew it was against the law. Smith Concrete agreed to that overlay. You're saying it's against the ordinance, but we'll go ahead and adjust it after the fact, and I'm really surprised that staff took that approach rather than really trying to work within the current confines of the overlay. Because it was changed in relation to GM with loading docks, now we've got this. I don't have much faith in the overlay at this point in time if somebody comes in and wants to do something different. So I urge you, please, take a step back, reject this. I don't know what your options are actually on this particular one, but I would reject this change, and let's not tell citizens who worked on and supported that overlay, even though we were against some of it, and I was against 11 square miles of industrial zone as well. But don't tell us that you'll change it. You'll change it after the fact. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Seeing nobody else, is everybody online wishing to speak against this? Looks like Mary, you have your hand raised. Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mary Countryman, 52959 Timothy Road, New Carlisle, Indiana. There's a famous saying, but I don't remember who said it, but it said, the famous saying is, if a law doesn't apply equally to everybody, then you really don't have a system of law. And in this case, it applies to all these amendments. What else happens? What else is going to happen if you pass this? The door is going to be open for every other business out there to say, well, hey, you did it for them, so it's only fair you do this for me. And beyond that, the 50% of the land usage, what other rules or laws are going to be let to go by because of the name of the I in progress, in the name of progress and the IEC? What else is going to happen? I'm pretty much predicting that trucks are going to go down non-truck roads. Speed limits are going to be broken. There's not going to be any rules for anything, just because, well, if you let this guy do this, then it's only fair and equal. It needs to stop. This whole IEC is a God thing that very few people seem to be worshiping, and allowing it to do whatever it wants has gotten out of hand, and it needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Seeing nobody else, believe that'll close that to the public. Staff, do you want
Do you have any questions?
to answer what, I guess? I don't know if there's a.
Staff rebuttals are pretty atypical, aren't they? Yeah.
So, what, there has to be a reason why this was kicked into gear here, right? So what was the reason? Something had to have happened. And is that what it is? Is it Ozinga tried to expand?
They're already set up to do work is what it is.
Public comments closed now.
Yeah, that was one legal nonconforming use within the overlay that led to us realizing that there's really no possible means forward for these existing uses even to get a limited expansion, and we only feel that it's fair that they should be allowed to have that limited expansion.
So to clarify, there was a means to address non-conforming uses within the overlay in the initial drafts, up to a certain percent. That's what we're proposing to put in. And in regards to how we become aware of things or necessary rezonings or land use petitions, Carl's rezoning at 932 East McKinley came forward through a plan review where we advised them that they needed to rezone. So we become aware of projects oftentimes when they're filing for approvals. And that's when we became aware of the project in question and then thought it appropriate to bring forward this text amendment that was always intended to be included in earlier drafts of the IEC overlay.
Was it always 50%?
It was never finalized. Also, this is kind of different in that this specifically applies to legal non-conforming uses. Originally, and I mean, we might go back to this, it was more restrictive in that it applied to any established use within the overlay. We just haven't really finalized where we want to go with that ultimately. But currently, what we're proposing is just for the legal non-conforming uses. It's not going to really put any sort of cap on the uses that were already established but do conform with the current ordinance.
If this was started by just one thing, why wouldn't we have just had them come and apply for a?
That's kind of the unusual.
Instead of setting up a whole text amendment on
The unusual circumstances that we're under, typically when a legal nonconforming use wants to expand, there is a legal path forward for them to at least try. They can try to get a special use to legalize it. They can try to rezone to legalize it. In this case, in that they're in the overlay, there isn't even an opportunity to really rezone it such that they could expand their established use. That's why in this one particular instance within the IEC overlay, it's more onerous to these legal nonconforming uses than really any other districts.
And it applies to the project that was discussed, but it could very well apply to other non-conforming projects within the IEC overlay so that we're not in the same situation if there's an expansion that's brought forward for a legal non-conforming use within the IEC overlay.
So I have two questions. In the future then, does that mean we would still hear if this gets passed and someone does in a non-conforming parcel want to expand? Will we see that here?
No,
No, because we've passed this.
not unless they would need some other approval.
Okay. I had another question. I don't remember what it was. Let me think for a minute.
I mean, Steve's gonna start smiling when I say this, right? But I kind of agree with what he said, that this kind of seems like this is weakening the overlay, and it's essentially, I mean, I would say this is something similar to building permits, right? Contractor can go out and do half of the work and then come in and ask for a variance or then apply for the permit, and it just, everything's done after the fact. And to me, this is just kind of, I mean, I don't know that much about the overlay, right? And I need to really sit down and ask a lot more, but according to everybody, it's not even finished yet, so, I mean, to me, this just seems like, what's the point for it?
So, just to clarify, you said there is no path for them, that particular project, because they're a batch plant, correct? Because there's no path for them to come conforming? You couldn't get a special exception for having that?
No.
We would have to amend the IEC overlay to remove that parcel.
To remove the batch plants portion of the non,
I remember my other question. Why was this removed from an earlier draft to this one? Was that like a noted verbal reason why it was taken out?
We had a host of use and development standards for the IEC overlay that was quite extensive to the point of the petition, or of the members of the public that spoke to it. And ultimately, there was some opposition to some of the draft standards, and specifically how it would impact existing businesses within the overlay. So at the county council public hearing, staff withdrew the request. There was still a desire to put forward the use restrictions so that we could have a unified set of use standards that would apply to the entire overlay. In addition to the use standards, we pushed for inclusion of the native landscaping requirements, that 50% of certain landscaping types have to be native. So that was also included with the use permissions. The thought process would be that we would bring back the IEC over, the full version, not an amended full version. We needed to have additional discussion with folks in the development community about some of the standards, specifically criticisms of the IEC overlay. The standards that didn't make it into the adopted version were that it was too onerous, the architectural standards were too great, that we didn't talk to actual builders, architects, or developers. So we still need to have a lot of those conversations and go through and further streamline the overlay to address concerns that were raised by the development community, or rather business interest community. But that's why we didn't bring forward, that's why you have the pared down version that was ultimately adopted, excuse me.
So this is getting lumped in this was lumped in with the second half that hasn't been approved yet.
Exactly.
Will it be not addressed in that second half then? Or why would it be pulled out now if it is supposed to be part of that? I guess it's a little confusing, and I think the other part is if this is an issue of someone trying to, like it's been stated before, like they did the wrong thing, and I'm trying to see if there's a way mentally to separate that like anybody who goes in now and just does whatever they want, if this is like a case of that, and I understand when people come to you, it raises a flag of like, oh, this was actually needs to be amended. So I think trying to separate that is really hard if someone's just like coming in and kind of doing whatever they want.
I will say that the expansion was potentially, I don't know what they actually got on the ground, what wasn't done properly, but in terms of someone just doing whatever they want in the future, the use on that parcel itself was legally established at some past date. So it's not like they could start a new use on an entirely new site and be covered by this in any way.
But it was, is it right that there wasn't a permit to execute the work? Is that what happened? Did I misunderstand what was? Because it would have had to have been approved, correct?
It is my understanding that there was some site work going on. One of the county staff within IPG became aware of it and brought it to the attention. They then had the project in question submit for commercial plan review, and then every department that had issues came forward with what requirements would need to be satisfied.
Okay.
They're still in the process of they're still going through that approval process.
Okay, and then how was the 50% derived? Is that based on like of the land and the existing building and how much is left buildable? Like what does that actually mean? Because it seems a little vague.
Sean, are you comfortable going through your
Yeah,
crude analysis?
So it's essentially going to be, you look at how much area of the site was occupied by that use at the time that the overlay was adopted.
Okay.
They can expand such that they occupy an additional 50% of that area currently occupied.
Okay, so if they have a 5,000 square foot building, they can be 7,500 now,
Correct.
but also within limitation.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's correct. You're correct. Sorry. You're absolutely correct. Yes.
And then, but they still need to, if, depending on their parcel size and that building size, whatever that works out to, they still have to conform to all the other setbacks, building, all the things that are gonna be passed with.
Absolutely. And from what I was looking at, again, with all the sites that are already developed, once you account for the setbacks, the retention, it would really be difficult for any of them to expand beyond that or even expand to that level.
And was this 50%, did that come up because of this exact site? Like, that's what they needed to get that, or?
No, they're not even using close to that.
Okay, thank you.
What are some other examples?
I can't really tell you necessarily what every single manufacturing facility is manufacturing necessarily. That's wherein some of the other legal and non-conforming uses could potentially exist. There might not be others. I don't have a full survey of all of the existing uses within the IEC.
The other thing that Sean touched on earlier that's, I think, important to note is that, when was it, 2019 or 2020, the zoning ordinance was restructured.
Mm-hmm.
We, until then, had 2 industrial zoning districts, M for manufacturing and LI for light industrial. Everything that was, not everything, but a lot of the uses that were permitted by right in the manufacturing district were made special uses in the new I industrial district. So even before the IEC overlay was established, this use was non-conforming because it didn't seek a special use in the industrial district. Because it wasn't required when it was developed, it was zoned something else.
Let me ask a dumb question. Is batch plants, mixed plants, are they allowed in any use? Well, I mean, what use are they?
Permitted by right?
Yeah.
No, they're allowed.
Exception for everything. Is it, they have to go for a special exception no matter what zoning it is?
Correct.
Okay.
Which Zynga didn't do.
They couldn't seek a special use in the IEC overlay.
It wasn't allowed because it's a non-permitted.
And when Smith Ready Mix was developed, it was prior to the new zoning ordinance. It was permitted under the manufacturing district.
By right.
In other zoning, not talking about the overlay, just in general, like if somebody's like in commercial or anything else that's illegal, non-conforming, are they allowed to go a certain percentage over for expansion?
They would need to either rezone or seek a special use.
So it's not they don't have it has to get.
Yes.
Maybe this has been covered, but my brain's kind of mush right now. If we didn't pass this, they could never expand. The people that own these businesses physically could never expand their business as long as they stayed within the IEC,
If they are non-conforming.
the non-conforming.
So they can't come and ask?
No.
No. Because batch plants are.
I'm saying anybody.
No legal non-conforming use within the IEC overlay.
If one company needs this, the entire overlay gets it.
Rather than be back in this situation, as we had Kurt Concrete go through 3 special use petitions before they settled on a site, we thought it prudent to apply non-conforming protections to apply these protections to other non-conforming uses in the IEC as they may exist.
So, all right, I'm just throwing this out here because I don't know the answer to this and I'm completely ignorant to it. But if a legal non-conforming company, all right, or whatever entity, right, was there, could they have brought and I'm just using this, could they have brought Kurt in to set up their batch plant there, providing this goes through? As long as it didn't exceed the 50%?
It wasn't.
If the specific use they were already doing was of the kind that Kurt Concrete would be doing, then yes. If it was a different kind of non-conforming use, they wouldn't be able to change it.
So manufacturing has to be manufacturing, industrial,
Their use has to
Whatever-
stay
yeah.
the same.
Right, right.
That use could expand, it could not change.
I guess on one hand, it makes sense if you've already purchased your property, you've been there established, it would stink for someone to come, you didn't have any say, or whatever you said maybe wasn't listened to with the IEC, and you can't expand your business. So I understand that part of it. That would feel like your hands were tied. I think, again, there's a separation, like you kind of want to see if somebody did something wrong, that they're being punished, or they have to be followed through, and I hope on one of those other avenues that that's being addressed, instead of like asking for forgiveness, like just paving their way outside of this. So, I don't know, it's a stinky one. I don't, like, there's no good answer, but I also, as a business owner, I would hate if somebody told me I couldn't do with my property what I wanted to. That would not feel good, so. If I was there before, is what I mean. Okay.
I think it'd be different if they were wanting to expand their own company to grow, to do this, where this is a little different.
Is that not the case then? Am I misunderstanding?
What's
what
presented is
happened?
just an overall text amendment
Yeah,
change.
I think we have to take the companies out of the
Yeah.
equation here, and
I think it was spurred by a certain company, but then it just brought
Right.
it to the table, so now.
We wouldn't have put this forward for an individual company if we didn't think it was reasonable to apply across the board to non-conforming
Right.
uses.
I think it also maybe would be helpful if we knew what was existing, so we knew what we were agreeing to, as far as like, if there was a slaughterhouse in there and they were gonna have their buddy who is also a slaughter come in, like, you know, if this is just the concrete plan or if it was other ones, because I think that would be then like a finite group that we would know what was being included.
If you all are uncomfortable with moving this forward, you can table. We can take a survey of what existing non-conforming uses are within the IEC and provide that to you at the June meeting.
love it.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Abby.
So this is just within the IEC. So what, in 3 months from now, you come to us and say, we want to do this east?
We will eventually come back.
Yeah, well, see, there we go.
with
You know,
your-
we're picking and choosing where we're going to do this at. You know, why don't we look at
The whole
countywide?
ordinance, yeah.
Countywide.
That has been a thought, because we do.
Why pick and choose?
We do have pretty restrictive, non-conforming regs,
That's true.
which we just set upstairs before we came down, so.
Okay, so
All right.
can I,
We'll come
can I
back in
make a
June.
motion that we table, APC 3042-24, for some further information on, you know, what's out there and examples of what it is, and look at the whole text together?
I'll second DJ's motion. Robert Krasinski.
We have a motion and a second to table APC 3042-24 for some follow-up information to the next meeting. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. England?
Yes.
Mr. Matsett?
Yes.
Ms. Hannon?
Yes.
Dr. Thacker?
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Devon?
Yes.
Motion
is
passes
tabled. Or,
to be tabled.
Couple things for not requiring a public hearing. Do we have any miscellaneous? No miscellaneous? We have findings of facts to approve.
Make a motion to approve the findings of the facts for April 16th, 2024.
Gene Matz had, I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the findings of the facts for April 16th meeting. All those in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. And we do not have any minutes to approve this month, or last month.
No, we anticipate being able to put 2 sets of minutes in your packet at least next month.
Thank you. Executive Director's report, Abby?
I'll just note that there's a summary of area plan petitions in the packet, as well as updates on a lot of our special projects that we've been working on. Always feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Where are we at on the comprehensive plan?
All right, so,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear this one.
Sure. We had a task force meeting. The task force is like the steering committee for the comprehensive plan on May 14th. Mr. Matzett was in attendance. Sorry.
Not able to attend.
Adam and DJ are also on the task force.
I was
They were
supposed to be there.
unable.
I couldn't attend.
As our chairs for BZA and Plan Commission. And then I asked Jean to join to represent the agricultural interests because that role really has been missing throughout the comprehensive plan process because we've had turnover with the director and A&R position at Purdue Extension. I would say we came out, what do you all think, with the least amount of edits that we've ever come out from the last task force meeting. We're working on finalizing the land use maps and doing the final edits, really the final edits to the, what's so funny?
I can't say it while we're recording.
To the text. We'll be holding public presentations, 2 in person, 1 over the lunch hour, 1 in the in the evening, and a virtual open house. Those dates are to be scheduled.
Process, Bobby. Process.
I mean, but DJ, the process has been going on for quite a while.
Yes, and you
Quite
also.
a while, maybe since 2002, you know?
Only you know
But,
that.
you know, we can cut down on a lot of time in some of these meetings if we come up with this comprehensive plan. You know, based on our meetings, county council meeting, commissioner meetings, you know, I'm pretty sure Mr. Caruso, Mr. Francis, Ms. Wolf, Mary Countryman have other things to do instead of come and talk about when is the comprehensive plan gonna be done. You know, and I just heard maybe 15 or 20 minutes ago, well, we need to sit down with, you know, the major builders in town to talk about the architectural design. I've heard that for months when I was on the county council. You know, I mean, it's getting to be a little kind of ridiculous that we got to keep hearing this. I'm tired of it, you know. I know it's a process, I get that. But it needs to get done, you know?
Is there a potential finish line on that, when that would get adopted, or?
Sure. Let me take you through the timeline that we have outlined with the steering committee and the consultant. I would also like to be able to deliver a comprehensive plan that is largely vetted before we put it up in a public process where it has to go back because it's unpassable. We've spent a lot of time making sure that it reads in a neutral voice, that the recommendations are largely agreed upon by multiple parties and multiple publics. That has taken time.
And I understand that, Abby, I get that. You know,
Because-
I've heard that. I know you've been busy at it, you know? with multiple people and organizations and so on.
You know, what you heard today, New Carlisle's plan, was approximately 5 years in the making. It is not unusual for these planning processes to take place over multiple years. I will put the full schedule in your packet next month. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the schedule.
That's fine.
All right.
Bobby, have you come to any of these, have you been to any of those meetings that we've had?
I started when I was on the county council, but then I got away from it. But I don't even know, to answer your question, no, because we don't know when they, I don't even know when they are. Do we know, do we get information when they are?
What meetings are you
the
referring
meetings,
to?
like the one you had the other, the comprehensive meetings,
Steering committee meeting.
the steering committee meetings, do we don't get?
No, the steering committee isn't everyone. It is a group of individuals that were selected to represent various topic areas. So Adam and DJ are participating as the chairs for the boards that they serve on, as well as representatives from the Builders Association, Jean for agricultural interest. We have someone from Shirley Hines from the Parks Department, from Olive Township, from New Carlisle, North Liberty.
Yep.
I think there's probably, what, 30
Kind
people on the
of
steering
like,
committee?
kind of like the group that's on, that was
Yes.
on the New Carlisle. A lot of this, most of these, some of the same players.
So the only thing that I want to say with this, and this is the first time I've ever been involved in a comprehensive plan, but being in these meetings and attending them regularly, the amount of complaining between each area, wanting everything that they want, the consultant, these guys, they're not able to make everybody happy. That
You're
one
not gonna
meeting,
make everybody happy.
I understand, but we had one meeting that we were supposed to go over maps, and it turned into 4 meetings because everybody did nothing but nitpick and tear it apart and complain, and parks wanted this, and homeowners wanted this, or whatever, the public wanted that. And there's a lot of stuff that has been involved in this comprehensive plan that isn't actually as reasonable as what everybody seems to think it is, right? And so it's not, and I'm not just sticking up for them, I'm sticking up for the entire committee, right? Is we go into this, and again, I thought it was gonna be a 6 months, 8-month thing, and I've asked multiple times, when is this gonna be done? When's our next meeting, whatever it may be? And them trying to prepare and suffice everybody that's involved in this, that feels like they have to be involved in this, is insane. And it's something I never wanna do again.
I've been in a lot of those, DJ, but sooner or later, somebody's got to make a decision. Above Abby and them. But somebody has to make a decision. And you're not going to please everybody, as you can tell by sitting in some of these meetings. You know, and I've sat in a lot of these, and a lot bigger than what I've seen now through area plan. But sooner or later, this has to come to it, because these people sitting out in the audience here are getting tired of hearing us say the same thing over and over and over again.
I understand.
I'm probably saying what the people out in the audience want to say.
And I think originally, and I've been involved on a good portion of the meetings, and I think from the time we went through and got all of our proposals and approved the actual, people running it, I think they initially projected a 2-year process. Is that about right?
A
It's about a
2-year process. We signed the contract with the consultant July of 2021.
Right.
So we are not at 3 years yet. And the original contract was 2 years.
So it's gone a little bit further along, but like most builders, things always take a little bit longer than you think, but we also had a rough couple of years, I think, with a lot of people participating in with public you know, places for a couple of years. I think that was a little trickier as well too. But yeah, it's definitely gone longer, and I agree. I've wanted it done faster, but I'm a contractor. I always try and push for faster. But you got, it does take time. I think we're getting there, but I think it's back on track, and you know, hopefully we can get to a finish line
Last meeting
quickly.
was productive from what I heard, right? So
You weren't at the last meeting?
I was not. I had a crisis, I could not get away.
You know, Gene was at the last meeting.
Gene carried the team, thanks for that. Hey, Adam wasn't there either.
I was not there. I've been at every other meeting. I missed the one meeting. I apologize.
I was gonna
so.
say that, DJ.
I-
was trying to give you some cover that Adam wasn't there either.
That was the one meeting I've missed of those. Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? I don't think anything else on the,
You don't.
okay.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
A motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you.